up, everybody? Real with Omar with a special guest. I think we've been talking for about 25 minutes before we started rolling, so we warmed up, ready to go.
Definitely warmed up.
Without further ado, John Rios, Team Synergy. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you for having me, bro. It's a pleasure, and I'm honored to be here.
I'm still laughing at our conversation before the recording. John, me and you know a lot of the same people, and I guess we've been watching each other. So one day I just hit you up, like, John, man, I want to do a show with you. I want to see how we can be of value to each other. And thank you. You responded quickly. I think we spoke last week.
Yeah.
And we're here. And tell me about Team Synergy. Tell me about real estate, and then we'll get into the real stuff.
Synergy team. Yeah, that's my team. I obviously, you can see on the shirt. That really, wow. So the inception of my team, honestly, bro, was it came out of necessity.
Okay.
I think a lot of people build teams, some because of ego, some because of their needs. Their team has actually grown to a certain point, or their business has grown to a certain point.
Business model, yeah.
And they have to leverage out and grow. For me, it was a matter of sustainability. I had gotten really sick, and when I would get sick, I would be hospitalized for very long periods of time, and
like months,
weeks.
Weeks, okay.
And it would be that I would be unconscious. I'd be on a ventilator,
Wow.
on a drug-induced coma, and whenever I would wake up and be back to life,
back to normal, right.
I would be physically back, but mentally it took a while to get back into the right mindset to even be myself again, never mind conduct business.
Right.
So obviously that was a huge momentum killer when things were kind of progressing for me in my career. And I had a few dudes that were really good friends of mine that I was just happening to be mentoring in the business. Like, hey,
they were real estate agents also?
Yeah,
okay.
They were realtors, and I was just giving them game all the time, mentoring them, coaching, if you will. And again, out of necessity, it was like, hey, I want to build a team. I don't care about the splits. Let's make it favorable for you guys because you're really helping me.
Right.
And that was kind of how the team was created. But the name, everything was a collective effort. I didn't want to create the John Rios team.
Right.
That was disgusting to me. I was like, it's like super egotistical. I didn't want that. I wanted something that the guys could feel comfortable branding and being a part of on their own.
Right. They could push behind it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we sat down one day when everybody agreed to join the team. We sat down and we had like a whiteboarding session.
Oh, a mastermind
to come up with the name.
Right.
And we were like, you know what? In New York, closing a fucking deal here requires a lot of synergy.
Right.
Amongst everybody involved.
A lot of professionals involved. Yeah.
Yeah. And we prided ourselves in the people that we referred to our clients, the attorneys, and so on. So we said, you know what, let's run with that name, and that was how it all came about. That was
that, huh?
Yeah.
So how long you been a realtor?
8 years now.
8 years. 2015?
Yeah.
2015. What did you do before that?
So I was in healthcare. I was in healthcare for 17 years. My whole family's in healthcare, and I started very, very early. I was a housekeeper in Montefiore Hospital. So I worked my way from, I've held so many positions in healthcare, but it was like housekeeping, registration, instrument sterilization, financial investigations, medical billing and coding, administration, management, like so many.
So you could run a hospital.
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting.
With me and a couple of family members,
you can run a hospital.
We could definitely run. We could definitely run it, and that was where my background was in healthcare.
So where'd the pivot come?
So it's an interesting story. So my wife had told me, like literally laying in bed watching $1 Million Listing. She was like,
looking at Ryan?
Yeah. She'd be like, you'd be so good at this. You know so many people. You have such a good network. You're very sociable. You're very extroverted. You'd be great at this. And while I was still working my job, I started to take the course.
Okay.
And was taking the course. And while I was taking the course, I went to a career night that my sponsoring broker, I call her my real estate fairy godmother. I still to this day love her to death. I wouldn't be in real estate without her or my
Do
wife.
you want to name her? Shout her out.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Helen. Shout out to Helen Bonner. But she was very persistent from the minute I went to that career night. The follow up was insane. Like, hey, what's up? When are you going to take your exam? When are you going to finish the course? So on and so forth. And I ended up failing the course twice.
Okay.
And I didn't know that if you fail twice, you got to take it over again.
Oh, you got to take classes over again. I didn't know that.
The whole 75 hours.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm not fucking doing that again. I was like, so real estate, it just ain't for me. It's not happening. But lo and behold, the universe had different plans for me. While I was on vacation with my family in Jamaica, I had a really serious accident, cliff diving.
Damn.
And I fell from a cliff and I fractured 5 vertebrae in my spine. I broke 3 ribs, had a collapsed lung. And the long and short of it, when I came back home, I had a long recovery process.
So you had a lot of time.
Yeah. and it was painful, and it was, I was in a brace from my chin to my waist.
That's crazy.
And Helen happened to call during this recovery time. And I was like ducking her calls for a while already because I didn't want to tell her.
Yeah.
I failed. I'm not pursuing this.
Yeah.
But she called and I was like, hey, what's up? And she's like, what's going on? I was like, yo, I ain't doing it. I failed. And she's like, what else you got to do? Like
Which is true.
You're bedridden. You ain't got nothing going on.
Yeah.
So she actually put the battery in my back to take the course again. I took it again. And what's interesting is that injury had me out for so long that was when I really got to see like the ugly side of corporate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was such an integral part of the department and the position that I had. And initially it was like, oh my God, man, that's horrible. You had such a bad accident. Oh, that sucks. Get well, To eventually the call started to be about, hey, when you coming back, man? Like, not really giving a fuck about whether or not I was okay.
How you feeling? Yeah.
Like, we need you. So, lo and behold, by the time I came back, I was kind of training my replacement.
Oh, okay.
And shortly after that, turned out that the hospital had switched management companies, or they were planning to switch management companies. And they basically told me that I could interview
for my
position with the new people. And I'm like, it's my position. What are you talking about?
Right. I thought I had this job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, at the time I didn't know which way to go. And I did do the interview, and the offer was a little, it just wasn't in alignment.
Okay.
So I had talked to my wife and I said, think I'm gonna let this go and see how this real estate thing works out, and started doing real estate full time from then. And
she was supportive?
I'm sorry?
She was supportive?
Oh yeah, my wife, beyond supportive. Like she more supportive than she should have been.
Okay.
To be honest.
Okay. So on the third try, you got it.
Yeah, third time with the charm.
You didn't strike out. Okay.
Nah.
There you go. Okay. So you start. How was the first year?
So the first year was good according to business standards or industry standards. I was rookie of the year in my office, but it wasn't good for me because we struggled. And I mean, my family struggled.
Right.
Not that I was making millions at my previous job, but I made good money.
Right. And it was consistent.
And it was consistent.
There you go. Yeah, that's
and
the change up.
The now like, oh, I'm not getting paid for 3 months. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So there was definitely an adjustment period. that was rough for all of us. Myself, my son, my wife, and a lot of doubt. Like, is this really what I should be doing?
Right.
Maybe not. And I actually had moments where I did go back. I took a part-time job at a hospital that paid me great, and I went back there, and that only lasted like a month.
Going back there or the job?
Going back to the job.
Okay. Why?
Because I had already gotten a taste of what it was to work for myself.
Okay.
And, it was like one day, like my manager was like, she saw me like texting someone or whatever. And she was like, John. And I was like, she's like, the phone, bro. And I was like, what? Like it just, and I remember I had told my wife, I was like, this ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? So I gotta sell more houses. I gotta go harder.
I gotta turn on. I gotta
turn it up because this ain't gonna work. And from there it was like balls to the wall with real estate and going all in, and it's been a dope journey, man.
All right, that's awesome, man. So 8 years into it, right? What's your best year been?
I'm sorry?
What was your best year? Gross numbers.
Best year was 2021.
All right.
2021. We did 72 units at, I think it was 48, 49 million, something like that.
Very nice.
Yeah, that was our best year.
And what was your worst year?
My worst year is this year.
2023?
My worst year is this year, and for many reasons. My dad got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's cool. It's been a blessing in disguise, actually. But that took a major toll on me mentally.
Yeah.
And I also kind of pivoted in a couple of different directions with other businesses that I started kind of entertaining. I got into the coaching space.
Okay.
Then I partnered with another partner of mine that we started building out our own business consulting platform. That took up a lot of time. So, this year was my worst year in terms of production, but
you were busy building other things out, right? So you got to see that takes energy, it takes space, and you're gonna have to get time to breathe to see how that really looks.
Yeah, but I mean, I never really cared about the numbers. I never really cared about the numbers because the numbers never tell the whole story.
True.
I've met people that worked in luxury markets that sold 60 million, and that 60 million was 10 deals.
Right.
They sold 10 $6 million
houses.
properties.
Yeah.
Whereas the next guy did 150 units to do 60 million.
Right. Right.
So I always felt like the numbers really didn't tell the whole story, and I never really cared about the numbers. I did at one point.
And you first started, maybe?
Up until my biggest year.
Okay.
Because in my biggest year, on the outside, it looked amazing.
Right. Is this 2021?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the years leading up to that, because it was like we had great years up until like they were all kind of the same.
Gradual progression, right? Growing.
Maybe a few more units each year.
Okay.
But during that time frame of success, or what the outside world says success, internally was a nightmare for me.
You want to go into that?
Yeah, I'm fine.
So let's say it's your best year, 2021. Everything should be coming up fucking dope. What's really happening?
A lot of legal troubles, a lot of financial troubles.
Stemming from sales?
Stemming from sales, stemming from my past. Actually, like my past kind of like is what triggered it. I did some not so great things in the past with my taxes.
Okay.
And that kind of like had the IRS shine a light on you.
And here you are, your best year ever.
Exactly.
Right? They're like, a word.
Here I am, my best year ever. And I mean my best year ever in all areas of
life?
Like, my credit was the best it had ever been. the most money I had ever had in my savings accounts. Business was flowing. Everything was great.
Yeah, yeah.
And go to the gas station, pump gas, and it's like, see cashier. I'm like, no way. And pull out another card. See cashier. I'm like, the fuck? And card after card, see cashier.
Okay.
And then like bugging out, like the fuck going on. I'm looking at my bank accounts, and it's just like lines, like how they cut off when they cut off your cable. It's like lines instead of numbers.
I'm not laughing at you.
No, it's cool, bro. It's cool. It's cool. It's a part of the journey, man. I'm happy for it, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know what the fuck was going on, and it happened. I called my accountant. He didn't know what was going on yet, but my broker called, and my broker was like, "Hey, we got this certified letter from the IRS and the state that they were levying your business, and they had levied your accounts and so on." And I called my accountant, and he's like, "Oh, figured it out."
Oh, I know now.
Figured it out.
Right.
And it was a legal shit show.
Okay.
Lot of money tied up, and trying to, what they don't teach you in entrepreneurship is
School.
Yeah. They don't teach you a lot, but one of the biggest things is what to do with the money when you get the money.
Correct. Yeah.
And I was in a place where it was like, oh, taxes. What do you mean taxes? Can't we just write this off?
Yeah.
And,
Everything, write it all up.
Yeah. And, like I said, behind the scenes, I was dealing with a lot, which then trickled into my personal life, because you're now thinking like my world is crashing down on me.
Right.
I don't have money. What am I going to do? How am I going to pay the bills?
I'm going to survive. Right?
Yeah.
It becomes that basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it ended up, I can say now in hindsight, it was a blessing.
Okay.
But in the thick of it, it created so many more problems for me, because now I'm not showing up as a dad. Now I'm not showing up as a husband. Now I'm not showing up for my family. I'm not showing up for my team members.
Right.
Because I'm in this state of victim. Oh, wow, woe is me.
Why is this happening to me?
Yeah, and I did this shit to myself.
Right.
But yeah, so that's why I feel like, the numbers
Don't tell the story.
don't tell the story.
Yeah.
And I think that's for most realtors and LOs,
Yeah, I agree. I think financial literacy is incredibly important. I think that I see sometimes like the organizations, and they want to give out these awards.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yo, why would I want everybody to know what I bought, what I funded this year? You know what I mean? Like, a lot of what I do non-QM is non-QM means not qualified mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Qualified mortgage means pay stubs and tax returns. That's what it means. So most of my stuff is private money, hard money, so it's not really trackable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why would I want somebody to put my shit up there and create a flashlight? You know what I mean? But that's when I see those awards and those organizations, I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. I'll be all right in my side of the world. My corner of the universe.
Yeah.
How do you feel about? We talked about this all offline, but I think some of the conversations we had offline are so powerful that I need to bring them online.
Yeah.
How do you feel about organizations having people in positions of, I don't want to say icon, I'll say positions of authority, preaching to other people that are trying to ascend or elevate or whatever insert synonym here, trying to do better for themselves, but they haven't done anything themselves?
So for me, that was a big one for me, because when I invested in coaching early.
Okay.
Like
8 years ago, like when you first started?
I think the only time I didn't have a coach, not even, because even my first year, I used the bullshit coach that my office provided, productivity coach that the office had.
Okay.
So I had always invested in coaching.
Okay.
And that was because I knew coming in the gate, like, I need to learn this.
ASAP.
Yeah.
Right,
I need
ASAP.
to learn this. I had a very different mindset. So for me, it was like, I need to hire someone. And I never had the ego of like, I think sometimes I even minimized myself to a fault, where I was always like, I don't know shit. So I want somebody with a proven track record. So for me, I always did my due diligence, because I'd always be like, all right, who's this guy speaking? All right, well, what the fuck has he done? And like,
Right.
because I
Fact
wanted,
check. Yeah, I get you.
wanted to know that, and not that
You want to know that you should listen,
well,
right?
yes and no. I think that we could always learn something from someone,
Right.
no matter what. But you have to know what to absorb and what to
Discard. Yeah.
discard.
I got you. Yeah.
And I felt like a lot of these organizations that were, I guess, designed to help in our communities, they had good intentions, but I always looked at it like, I got to pay to be a part of this organization. I got to pay to come to the event. Then I'm going to sit here and listen to these people speak. Some of them aren't really qualified to speak about what they're speaking about. And then everyone else in the room does what I do. So there's no business here.
Right.
That's always how I looked at it.
Right.
If I'm going to a networking event, I'm going to meet people to further my business or to build relationships with. So for me, like the realtor to realtor peer-to-peer relationship didn't mean much to me. So, I did it for a year, would go to everything and be out there.
Well, at least you did that.
Yeah.
At least you did the whole year and kind of built yourself a basis of whether or not it's bullshit or not for you. At the end of the day, like me personally, out of 100 people you meet, I feel that maybe 1 or 2 will stick, and not just so much to do business, but be like-minded and maybe, to use your word, synergy, like with like if he's covering another district or he does insurance or he, or she does, title, whatever, is a way to synergize that. But it takes a lot of sifting. It takes a lot of sifting. But I think the personal connection is powerful, right? Especially if you meet the right people.
Yeah.
Going back to that, like you told me a story offline about being in the car and watching a deal happen, right? And being like, yo, with the guys I came up with, that would have never happened, right?
Yeah.
And I have the same experiences where usually when I walk into a place or I get into a new, let's say, sphere of influence, most of those people have more than me. And they welcome me because somehow I bring value. Whatever, for every group it's different, right? And then the one thing that always stood out to me is that people that have usually are more willing to collaborate, and they want to include you and see how you fit into the machine.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people who don't have, they just look at you as adversarial or as competition. Right now, at this point in my career, I have loan officers that call me and I'm like, yo, this is how I would do that deal, and I will go there with it. So if you want, go ahead.
Yeah.
And then, some people get taken aback, like they're not insulted, but like, no, I want you to do it because I know you're not going to fuck it up. Or you take lead and let me watch so I can learn for the next one. And I'm cool with that too. But in the past, it's always been, I gave you this deal. I want 65% of it. You get 40. I'm like, but I'm doing all the work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that is how I feel the industry developed.
Yeah.
And they say, the fisherman catches the. One guy told me, well, the fisherman catches the fish, you should get paid the most. I was like, but if you have nowhere to fucking bring the fish into, fuck you doing?
Exactly.
You just hanging out there with your fucking pole out.
Yeah.
And the way that sounds right now is funny, but he didn't get it. I was like, yo, dude, you could be marketing all you want. If you can't process and fund the deal, you're not doing nothing. All you do is talking.
Yeah.
Right? We got to close. At the end of the day, we got to close. That's all it comes to. Do you feel like when you meet, do you feel the same way, or do you feel differently?
I feel the same way. I mean, like I don't touch commercial.
Okay.
And I don't touch it because I never learned the commercial industry at all. So I never wanted to take on a deal or represent a client that I didn't feel 100% confident in servicing them.
Right.
I didn't want to do the fake it till you make it. I didn't want to. So every time commercial came around, I would refer it out. And I was of a very different mindset when it came to referring it out. And my commercial guys, y'all know who, like, I'm not like, hey, I'm going to send you over a referral agreement, sign it first, and then I'll
send you over stuff. Right.
I just want the people to be taken care of. Because for me, there's so much value in just being the person that can connect somebody with the person. You get what I'm
Correct.
saying?
Yes, absolutely.
And that was huge for me. And you know, I never, and I told you this offline, like exposure was super valuable to me, invaluable to me. And I always looked at it like that. I didn't need to be at the table. I didn't need a seat at the table. If I was in the room sweeping the floor, I was happy with that. Because I was happy to be in the room. I was happy to be picking up game because I knew eventually I'd be at the table. Eventually be sitting there. And I didn't need to be there at that moment. So to just be in the room was enough for me. And I think that a lot of the time, in our industry specifically, you know, it's so ego driven and,
Yeah, I see that.
you know, in this vanity matrix where, you know, everybody wants to be the big dog. And it's like, I'm okay with playing my position over here until I get to that point.
So it's a time. It's a time, right? I think that the value is in the education, right? Because once you know how to do something, you can't take it away. You can't unlearn something, right? So then, yeah. So if you're looking at it that way, say, I refer this business to you. I just want to, yo, man, if I could just be CC'd on the emails. Or I've done deals with certain investors that I knew, and this, I don't know if you, there's certain front-facing investors, but we all sell to end investors, right?
Yeah.
There's maybe 5 guys buying everything in the whole fucking United States. So I've piggybacked with guys on the front face to learn before I went directly to the main source, because they don't have that patience.
Yeah.
They'll be like, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You get the fuck
Get
out
outta here.
straight out, right? And then you destroy your credibility, right? But there's a value to being humble enough and aware. Hey man, I'm not qualified yet. Let me rock with you. Let me just watch till I get qualified, and then I can feel comfortable enough to take it on my own. I think people are rushing to get to the end all, and they're not qualified to do it, and they look crazy at the end. And then it's your fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's not their fault. But the reason I'm breaking it down this way with you is that we have a whole generation of people that go on social media that want to be at the end, and they don't want to take the certain steps in the beginning. And it's a process, and it's an education, and there's a vernacular, and there's a pedigree to it. And you don't get those overnight. You have to be in those rooms and observe and understand engagement and understand terms. I remember sitting in certain rooms with certain CEOs when I first started. They're talking about the price of a coupon. I don't know what the fuck they were talking about. I Googled it later. The coupon is basically the spread on a loan.
Yeah.
Right, that's what it is. But my first year, I'm like, wow, it's a coupon. I'm gonna write this shit down. And there was an education to that. I think people, to become a master, you have to be educated, and you have to educate yourself, and you have to be a willing student to listen to others. And I think and this is my personal opinion, right? It's not everybody's opinion. What I see is everybody's, like you said, faking it till they make it. But if you ask them a few real questions, the facade breaks down really quickly. You're like, oh, what's this? Oh, what? You're like, I could, if I sit in a room with somebody and I ask them 2 or 3 questions, I already know exactly where they're at.
Yeah.
And and it's not in a way to break them. It's a way for me to know if I'm having a conversation with the right person.
Yeah.
For
sure. It's I was listening to a Alex Hormozy podcast recently. I love that dude. And I was listening to
Shout out to Alex.
Shout out to Alex. Word. I'm always watching your shit, bro. But he explained it perfectly. He said that in order to get to whatever your determined level of success is, there's what he calls an ignorance debt that has to be paid.
Okay.
And that ignorance debt is paid down by learning certain skill sets, learning certain things. And for me, that's exactly how I operated. When I came into the business, I always would hear people say, like, you got to become a listing agent. You got to become a listing agent because listing agents control the inventory, and listing agents control their revenue so much more predictable and all this. And I was like, so what the fuck am I going to do? Because all I got is buyers. And at one point, it kind of got to me where I was like, damn, like, this guy, he's a listing agent. He's killing. He's better than me. And then I was like, nah, I need to learn how to master working with these buyers and master the efficiency of me working with them so that my time and my conversion ratios are just as close to a listing agent as possible, so that I could say I'm done with this, I mastered this, and let me go into this now. Let me learn how to be a listing agent
on the other side. Right? Yeah.
And I always looked at it like that. I always looked at it in phases. And especially in our local market, I shout everybody out. There's a lot of dudes out there doing big things, huge teams. I'm always a student of the game. If I can pick up game from you, I'm never too proud to say, so and so taught me or put me on to whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was always the mindset that I had with it.
Do you feel that a lot of agents have the same mindset now or no?
Nah. I think that our industry, especially in this market, because one of the things that I am happy about in terms of exposure again was I was a part of coaching programs that had top agents from across the country.
Right. So you saw different perspectives.
I did.
Right.
Because the people that could close in 30 days, 15 days, they don't have the same gripes as we do. They don't have the same struggles that we do in our market. And I think that in our market, a lot more agents could be successful if they were vulnerable and said, hey, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Can you show me or can you teach me?
What does this mean?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So A, being vulnerable, and B, collaborating.
Right.
I got a deal. Shout out to Cammy at Remax. I got a deal that was a pretty significant deal, but the client that came to me was Spanish-speaking Dominican guy, and all the tenants in all 5 units were all Dominican.
Okay.
And my Spanish is not good enough.
Okay.
And again, it goes back to me not feeling comfortable enough to service the client the right way.
Right.
So I called Cammy. I was like, hey, I got this situation. Do you want to work this deal with me? And she's like, yeah. And I said, all right, so we'll split it 50-50. She's like, 50-50? What are you bugging? I was like, yeah. Like, I'll do all the legwork.
You translate.
And there's not a lot of people that will do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll either turn away the deal or they'll try to do it themselves knowing
fuck it up.
Knowing that they can't.
Right.
And I'm just like, you know what? 50% of something is better than 0% of nothing.
Yeah. Absolutely. But again, it goes back to ego, right? A lot of people have ego, or they come into this industry, and I feel for it. I think I'll give you one. I'll touch base on this one too. I think a lot of these organizations, they build up these icons, right? And some of the icons haven't done anything yet, but they're wearing a suit and they're driving a nice car, and all that smoke and mirrors. How many of them are homeowners? How many of them own multiple units? I'll break it down. How many of them own more than 50 units? And then that should be the paradigm. That should be, hey man, so he's qualified to talk. Yeah, he's talking about multifamily. Inspira called me to speak at a thing in Brooklyn. Because of the panel and the diversity and everybody was different, I had experience and assets in each bucket. So I was able to translate what a CPA was talking about, because to the average person, it's boring. But if you put in, I bought this building like this, and and I give them the idea, then all of a sudden it's sexy, right? That's useful. If he's just saying some shit, you're just gonna forget it. It's gonna go over your head. So I was able to do that. But when I first started, I didn't have anything. I first started, and they had, I was the president of NAREP in 2017. That was a really tough year for me. My mom got sick, so I had to resign. But before that, I had a 2-family I bought in 05, 06, but I wasn't doing much. And then when my mom got sick, I didn't want to do much. And that's why I resigned, and I just focused on my business and my family. I figured those are the 2 things that I had to keep consistent, because if not, I was going to go crazy. That was just my personal way of therapizing. And then I come back, 5 years, 6 years later, and everything's changed, right? Mom stabilized, family's great. One kid finished college, the other one's going in. I own 71 apartments. I've invested in fintech. I have shit I could talk about, because the time away, I kept busy. I wasn't just watching Netflix. You know what I mean? I was getting busy. I was learning the game on different levels. I was putting myself in places that there was an opportunity. And even though, to give you an example, we had this 21 unit we were buying. At the last minute, the buyer backs out, Dominican dude. And he's like, his story, I think he was getting divorced. I think the wife pulled the plug on the finances, whatever. He didn't want to tell us. But we already negotiated the sales price. The appraisal came back $400,000, $500,000 higher. So me and the agent and two other, we're all friends, we bought it.
Yeah.
But going back to your story in the car, that's because I had the right guys, right? We're like, yo, how much you got? How much? It's 2.1. All right, well, I could do this. All right, let's do this. And we figured it out together collaboratively because one of us by ourselves, we couldn't do the deal. Right. And those are the lessons I learned while I was mending, right? And like I say, I keep saying the same thing. Collaboration is the way. Collaboration, you can't do it by yourself, but what's wrong with three of us doing it? And going back to what you said, yo, we eat, like right now, I own a portfolio of 7, 8 million. I own 30% of it, but it's still 2.1, right? It's still something. I don't do anything with the day to day. I have a management team. The other partners take care of that because my focus is doing loans and making sure that money comes in for me. Because if I take my eye off the prize and the main money maker, it ain't gonna work. It just ain't gonna work. But I know my position, and that goes back to another statement that you said. I know how to play my position. I don't have to be the guy up front. I'm lucky. I'm happy to be down with the team. If they need me, there's been times when I've been called. I have to go down and do a meeting, whatever, because somebody else gets tied up. That's fine. But I know my position. I think most people just want to be busy being the front guy. And sometimes, the front guy is cool, but that shit takes energy. That takes energy and
a lot of responsibility,
decisiveness, right, and financial responsibility. And I think people see all the glitz and glamour, but don't understand the dirt and the mud of what you have to do sometimes to have certain things in place. And especially Latinos, right? Latinos, they don't talk about their finances.
No.
Especially, oh no, what are you talking about? How much you make? Yeah. Why you care? Well, I want to know what you could buy. That's why I care.
But I think that the more that I learned quickly how much there's so much power in vulnerability, right? And especially as Latinos, like this machismo of like, you don't say shit. You're struggling.
You internalize it.
Yeah, you're struggling. You don't share it. You don't talk about it. And for me, it was like when shit hit the fan, when I had nothing, it was like, well, what the fuck do I got to be afraid of saying, like.
What's happening?
Yeah. And it wasn't until I got comfortable with sharing that I got all the help I needed, all the resources. It was like
they appeared.
It's like, hey, my credit's fucked up. Oh, I got this guy over here for you. And hey, I need to, whatever it may have been.
Right.
And going back to what you said, like, I had a conversation. I do some small like business coaching, consulting on the side, and one of my groups is a group of LOs, and one of them said to me, John, I have this team of realtors and, trying to figure out how I can provide more value to them and how I can get them more leads. And I was like, why do you think that that's the only value you can provide them is leads? Oh, because they want to make more money. I said, listen, I can guarantee you that of those 6 guys that you're working with on that team, at least 3 of them, maybe 4, don't own a property. So help them get into their own property. And I guarantee you that building that rapport, that trust from helping them with that
relationship.
Because you might find out they got fucked up credit. They don't have any money saved. They don't know how to budget. They don't know anything about finances. Now you help them behind the scenes. You create the rapport, you create the trust, and you create a testimony within them. So now you have a real referral partner. That's not transactional. It's not like, oh, I work with Omar because he pays for my Zillow leads.
Right. And you teaching them. Right? You teaching them. And all of a sudden, you got multiple people that own shit, and they walk onto, or they stumble upon an opportunity, and now you got 4 or 5 guys that can pull the trigger on an opportunity. And that's how you change it. That's how you change it. By getting your circle stronger, where you can look at things and they're not intimidating anymore. Right? They're like, possible. You know what I'm saying? We could do that. Let's take a look at that. I'm looking at that like I'm going to buy something. We could buy that. But that changes you within also. That changes your ability to imagine, the ability of possibility. Like, you're like, I can do that. Like, what are the steps I have to do that? Because I've already done this, right? Like, from 2017, let's say 2021. 2021 is when mom got stable. So let's say 2020, we had COVID, little chink in a little blip in the matrix. And then 21, 23 is when I started going, because I was like, all systems a go and revving and doing things. How did COVID affect your business?
COVID nearly put me out of business. COVID was COVID for entrepreneurs, or I don't want to speak. I'll speak for myself. It was like the mammogram or the CAT scan for your business that you didn't know you needed. Right. It exposed real holes, and it was like, holy shit, like, I wasn't prepared for this at all. When you have so many deals in the pipeline, you're used to a certain pipeline, which then means you're used to a certain amount of closings every month.
Revenue, yeah.
And you become kind of dependent on that.
You get used to it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you get used to it.
And you're not preparing for the flood.
Right.
You're not
Right.
preparing for it. And when COVID hit, it was like, holy shit. How do I pay my VAs? How do I keep business afloat? How do I pay my bills?
Yeah.
And
how do I see new clients? How do I do like all that became a thing? Yeah.
And it was scary as fuck.
You guys couldn't cold call. Realtors couldn't cold call. You couldn't do open houses.
No.
You had to do everything fucking FaceTime or WhatsApp.
But even that took a while to get to that point.
Right.
Because in the beginning, you couldn't do anything.
Right.
You couldn't do anything. Like, all of it was illegal. It's like, how the fuck are they going to get COVID through the phone? Like, I'm trying to see if they want to sell their house when this shit is over. Like,
yeah.
And you couldn't do anything. So, what saved us was pivoting into Connecticut.
Right.
Connecticut was open for business, and they were kind of conducting business as usual.
Right.
So when I saw that, I went from the grieving and sulking to like, okay,
opportunity.
I got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that, I'm 25 minutes from Stamford. All right, let me see what offices are in Stamford. Got the Connecticut license, transferred over to Stamford, started doing business there. And that really saved us, to be honest, because if we were solely dependent on the New York market and the New York business, everyone would have went under.
Everyone packed up. Yeah. I remember hurricane, was it Maria? The last hurricane that knocked everything out in the Bronx. I remember driving and all the gas, I don't know if you remember that, the gas stations that were around and shit. It should be out of gas.
Yeah.
I remember driving up, I don't know how far we went up, me and my wife. I went up mad deep in Connecticut. And I finally stopped at a gas station, and they're like, everything's normal here. And I was like, what? They're like, we're good.
Yeah.
So I filled up my tank and shit, filled up my little gas tank. And they were like, I guess the harbor is not far, so we can get deliveries. But it just goes to show you, like, how New York can get crippled, right? And then you go up north, and things are changing. Like, they don't even understand the relief they gave me by giving me gasoline. Going back to, and I'm using that as it because it's essential, right? You can't drive your car without it.
Yeah.
Without money, you can't run a business.
Yeah.
So imagine going to Connecticut into a new space, pivoting and showing new houses. But there was also a mass exodus of people looking to buy in Connecticut because it was more affordable.
Yeah.
Right. So did that work out too, or did you have all the $50,000, $100,000 offers over asking and shit like that?
Yeah, we were having a little bit of that, but I also saw an opportunity a little bit later, which was the fire sale that became Manhattan. And I started to reach out to the realtors that I knew in other countries, in other cities.
Did they want to buy Manhattan?
Yeah, and because there were some huge deals at that time. Like, I sold a 2-bedroom condo right above the M&M store in the height of COVID that was previously listed at like $3.5 million more than what it was when my client bought it.
Nice.
So I started to try to look for opportunities like that. Like, okay, what else is this downturn? What opportunities are being created because of this? So the Connecticut market was one, and then like I said, there was huge opportunities in Manhattan. They started giving out those 25-year, 30-year tax abatements, and
Try to entice people to come back in.
trying
Yeah.
to incentivize people to buy down there. And I had a few people that took advantage of it, and that was a huge help for me because those were big commission checks.
Right.
Like the builders were paying out 5% to the buyer's agent.
Really?
Yeah, the
Okay.
developers were like doing these
Because they were desperate too.
Yeah.
They were-
So eventually you got past the boo-hooing, and then you saw opportunity.
Back to business.
And it
Yeah.
was like, all right, now we can make a new way here.
Yeah, business manifests in different ways, right? And I think the key to being a good entrepreneur is identifying a need and kind of gravitating and pivoting towards it. Like you said, everybody that I knew that lived in Manhattan all of a sudden went to rent in Florida, right? Everybody had the hands. Everybody was gone.
Yeah.
And then when things started clearing up, everybody wanted to come back. Some people were capped out. They left their apartments. Some people owned the ultra rich. They own shit everywhere. They don't care. They have money that's gonna pay for everything. It doesn't matter. But there's that vertical climber. That guy who's making a couple $100,000, $250,000, $300,000 a year that moved out to Florida and wants to come back. And now that's where like they're getting kind of stuck. But I saw some opportunity there for loans also. During COVID, the hardest part about doing regular conventional loans was that the constant calling about employment. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
Did you? You would have to call during the process. You would have to call at the closing table. You would get a call before it funded. Like it was wild.
That was how so many of our deals were falling apart.
Yeah, employment verification.
We were like praying, like so many deals. We were like, please just get like. Please don't get laid off. Yeah. Please don't get laid off. Please don't lose your job. And it was just left and right. We were hearing about it. We had clients that were in the service industry that were getting demolished.
Yeah, the hotels. Yeah,
so,
I remember that. I remember that. But you made it, bro. You made it.
Yeah, we made it. We made it through, man. Right.
So here's a big question. What's the longest time you've been on a fast?
The longest time, so again, I want to preface this by saying that everybody has their own idea of fasting and what
a fast is. Right.
Mine is just not eating any solid food.
Okay.
I still drink juice while I'm on it. I'll do juicing, but it's primarily juice, hot tea, water, and a couple of supplements, like for electrolytes, minerals, things like that, but just no solid food at all. And the longest I've gone on that type of fast is 7 days.
7 days. Protein powders?
No.
Working out?
Working out.
So you're still trying to maintain your regular life, but just no solid food?
Yeah. I mean, I still 100% maintain my regular life. I actually make the changes that I make is because it's more of a spiritual thing for me.
Okay.
Is I'll incorporate some additional time throughout my day for prayer and meditation because the hunger pains get real.
Wow.
And it's really a mental thing. And I'm not trying to like get biblical because I'm not religious, but I was Christian for a while, and I do believe that all religions believe in some sort of fasting, whether Muslims, Jews, they do it during Lent for Catholics, like Ramadan, so on. Everyone knows that there's some sort of physical component and spiritual where when you're denying the flesh, you're enriching the soul.
Right.
So during those times where the hunger pains kick in and you get irritable, you get moody, is a time for you to sit and
check yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And get into prayer and get into meditation. So that's something that I'll make a point of doing more. But outside of that, my schedule is still the same. I still work out. I still work. I still do.
Everything's the same except the food part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does your wife do it with you?
No.
Okay.
No. Which actually makes it a little bit more difficult.
Of course, because she's eating while you're looking at her.
Because you could smell the chuletas in the air, and it's like, oh shit. But I think that's what makes it more gratifying.
To be able to push through and have your discipline.
Yeah. I stopped drinking alcohol recently, and I just made 4 months,
Okay.
and that's the longest I've ever gone in my
Really?
entire life.
Wow.
And I started drinking at a very young age, and what I've learned or seen like during this time of 4 months, like we were just in Florida celebrating my grandmother's 100th birthday.
God bless.
Thank you. And even that was huge for me because everybody's like, "Fuck you mean? Come take a shot." And I'm
Right.
like, "Nah,
No, I'm good.
I'm
Yeah.
good." Barbecues all summer, parties.
Alcohol is a large part of socialization,
Yeah.
right? And people, it's not, nothing's wrong with it. It's cool, and it's, it just becomes, where are you in your journey,
Yeah.
right? And I guess your real friends and family will be supportive of you no matter what. It's those people that make it difficult sometimes, that they don't respect it. But usually those people don't have any discipline.
Yeah.
So they can't understand it. They're like, well, why would you do that? Because I want to test myself. Because I want to, I want to break free of something.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, it's a mental and spiritual thing, but people that admire discipline will resonate with it.
But I also think that it takes. I can only speak for myself. I had to gain a certain level of empathy for the people that were having a hard time adjusting to me not drinking.
They were having a hard time adjusting to you not drinking.
Yeah.
Was it your drinking buddies? I'm not being funny. I'm just asking.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
like
So
my
people, you had a
boys.
social circle, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to. It went from being frustrated with them
Yeah.
to empathizing because it's like this is the version of you, the only version of you
They
that
know.
they've known.
Right.
That's a shell shock.
Right.
Like if every time we go out, we drink, we're taking a shot, we're watching a game, we're drinking, to now you don't do that.
Yeah.
You have to have certain level of empathy for them to be like, they're adjusting. So for me, it was like I would make it look like I was drinking something, get like a
seltzer cranberry?
seltzer cranberry, like something to feel like that. And for me too, it was a mind thing.
Right.
But and it wasn't like I stopped drinking because I was like some raging alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I realized how often I was drinking, how high my tolerance had gotten to alcohol, and how much of a crutch it was. It was like, oh, rough day, oh, go home and pour up, or networking event, work lunch, work dinner, and then by the time Sunday comes around, you realize you drank 5-6 times in the week. You got this brain fog, for me anyway. And I'll be 40 next month, and I don't know about you, but for me, it was like drinking, the recovery time became
Oh, hell yeah.
a night of drinking
shit ain't
now
like when you're young,
became
bro. Yeah.
is a 2-day recovery.
Yeah. You're hiding for 2
Yeah.
days because you want to feel normal. No, listen, drinking is a social thing, and I get that. Question for you is, where did you pick up your self-awareness? Because it takes a self-awareness to identify these things. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy you say that. When I got on a spiritual journey about 3 years ago was when I really started to realize how much of our internal spirit affects
The external?
the external.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like sometimes we're in situations or we do things that something inside of us don't feel right, but we do it anyway because that's all we know.
Right.
And that was a lot of things, to be honest with you. Like my awareness started to develop around the way I was with my wife, the way I was with my son, the way I was with my family, the way I was in business, things that I kind of normalized, I started to question.
Okay.
And it was because I would feel like this thing that I was like, wait, something isn't right, And starting to realize that self-awareness is beautiful, but it's difficult, man. It is difficult, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
It is difficult.
It bleeds into accountability.
It does.
It bleeds into you can't hide anymore, right?
Yeah.
You can't blame somebody else for your shortcomings. Yeah, it's a
And
it's a heavy thing.
and
Yeah.
you can't claim ignorance anymore.
Nope. Right. Right.
And when you get to that point where, internally where you're like, fuck, like this ain't right.
Mm-hmm.
I would catch myself, my wife is my biggest teacher, like letting down the ego and the pride and needing to be the man and
Right.
and actually listening to her and saying like, well, shit, like, did I have to react like that? Did I have to?
There's different ways to deal with things. Yeah,
Did I have to get like so defensive? And I'm still learning, but it the awareness is a beautiful thing when you start to tap into it, man, because I think that's when we truly start to find who we are.
Absolutely.
I started realizing that a lot of the things that I've always done, I wasn't really comfortable with, and I would never verbalize them. I'll give you a perfect example. I was with a group of dudes, like my boys.
Your friends? Okay.
And it's pretty normal and common for men to come together and have discussions like around women that aren't great.
Okay.
A lot of womanizing. And I'm guilty. I would take part in that. And at this phase, I would be in those conversations and get really uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable. Like to the point where like I'd try to change the topic.
Right.
And
try to pivot it. Yeah, I got you.
Because it would make me uncomfortable. But I think that, it starts with the awareness and then there's action.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, either
what
now
am I do about this? Yeah.
Either now you speak up and say, hey, this ain't cool, or I'm uncomfortable, or you remove yourself.
Right.
And I found that I was removing myself more
from everywhere.
Yeah, from more and more circles, and it was just because you don't ever want to feel like you're forcing or trying to change anyone or impose your beliefs or thoughts on them. But there were a lot of things, man. Like I have a good friend that the way he would talk to his wife made me uncomfortable.
Oh.
And I was like, damn, like this never bothered me before. Like, why is
something happened to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
did you have a conversation with him, or you just removed yourself?
I did. And now in hindsight, I probably like realized that I probably didn't approach that conversation right. I probably should have been a little bit more empathetic. But again, it's a learning process. You go through your whole life of handling things one way, and now you're trying to navigate how to maneuver with things now. So I did speak to him about it. He didn't receive it well, and we're still really cool. But I now have to realize it's on me to say, do I want to continue to be in this environment or deal with this? And, and I take it in small doses. Once I start to feel uncomfortable, I'm like, all right, let me check out of here.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that, I mean, you're talking about, obviously what we're talking about is very adult in terms of when you're hanging with certain people and they've been your friends your whole life, and then you've evolved and they haven't. Yeah. And this is what you're talking about. And I think Jay said it the best, Jay-Z. He said, I didn't work this hard to stay the same, bro.
Exactly.
Right? So some guys are not going to be wanting to work like you or even myself. I'm a work in progress myself. My wife is also my biggest teacher. But I'm very aware of who I'm around. And that's on purpose. I don't necessarily have to remove myself from certain places. I just don't go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just don't go. And sometimes you have to be self-aware enough to be like, hey, if I'm going there for this, it is cool. After that, I'm leaving. You know what I'm saying? And you got to protect your energy.
Yeah.
It becomes that thing, and unfortunately sometimes people get offended by that conversation, and it doesn't have to be a bad conversation. I'm like, look, this is my journey. This is where I'm going. This is where I'm at, right? When I was 10 years ago, I wasn't there. I wasn't financially, whatever, spiritually, I didn't have the abundance of energy that I have now. And I'm just trying to, I'm trying to make good use of it. And some people will receive it well. Other people will be like, hey man, put me on. And like you could read books, but you gotta believe.
Yeah.
All the reading in the world ain't gonna do it unless you believe, like unless you truly want change. And some guys just not gonna change, and that's cool. And you can talk about stuff for a limited time, right? Like there's certain friends I call for certain conversations. There's certain friends I would never call about certain conversations because they have no way of fucking navigating that shit. That shit would be like, like there's certain conversations I can have with friends that are big in scale and they can grasp it. Other guys be like, oh, you bugging, bro. You bugging. That'll never happen. And not to say I'm mad about that. It's just I understand where it's coming from. And going back to your word, empathizing. I empathize because this is their world and they live within this box and this is it. And that's okay. And I'm just living in another box. It might be bigger. It might be over here, but it's my box. And I keep imagining as big as I want to get. And it becomes a testimony to who you are, right? Because you gotta be true to you. Because at the end, you want to talk about stuff not feeling right, bro. Imagine living a life that you don't want to live.
Yeah.
Imagine that will corrode you inside.
I did it. I did it my whole life, to be honest. And I think that imposter syndrome, I think it kicks in very, very early. For me, it was like, I'm growing up in the hood, and nobody wants to be a gangster. Nobody wants to be tough. Nobody, but the environment either forces you to, or you choose to because this is what's cool, and it starts as a child, and then as an adult it takes on, like, the imposter syndrome is different. It's now like, well, who do I have to be socially? Who do I have to be professionally? Becoming a realtor had this whole, like, fucking avatar of itself for me, and I was like, I don't even like what that avatar looks like and feels like.
I don't resonate with that. I don't identify with that. Yeah.
And these past 3 years, man, has really been crazy. I'm turning 40, and I just start finding out who I am at 37.
Right. That's big.
Who I am, what I really like, Got a bunch of fucking plants in my house now. You know what I mean? I'm fucking watering plants. Like,
you're botanist now.
Yeah, I like plants. I'm fucking reading books on how to keep this plant alive, and I'm, it's shit like that. But I think that going back to the conversation that we were having about Latinos and being afraid to talk about finances, I think it's being afraid to talk about everything.
Yeah.
As men, where it's like relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the majority of us, we didn't have an example of or a good example of what it was to be a good husband.
That's a great statement, bro. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
So then
there was no model.
No. So then you look around to the guys closest to you,
and they're shit shows.
Yeah. He's cheating, he's fucked up. So it's just like, all right, where do I turn?
Yeah.
And then you might get a little something. And this is why, like, I give my wife so much credit, and I say, like, for her sticking around, because I'm just learning. I'm just learning, bro. Like,
how long you been married?
We've been together 14 years.
Okay.
But, even that, separating ups and downs, to say, like, to have the vulnerability to be like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
As a man, as a husband, because you were programmed to think that pay the bills, protect and provide. That's it.
Right. Those are like the basic necessities, right? Yeah. And then everything else. Yeah.
Communicate.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like,
feelings.
Yeah. Like, nah. So, I think that having men, period, having more of these conversations around shit that's uncomfortable. Yeah, we can talk about sports all day.
Yeah.
We've been doing that for 40 years.
Sports is fun. Yeah, sports is fun.
You know.
Playing it, watching it. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
But
What do you do when your wife says you're emotionally absent? Oh
Yeah.
shit, I don't know. There you go. There's a conversation, right? There's a conversation. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and just knowing that you have somebody that you could even ask that
Yeah.
question to.
Yeah, that's a
Yo,
big.
bro, your wife ever tell you this?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, absolutely. There's not enough of that. There's not enough of that, and I think that shift, that paradigm shift, has to happen because to have fully functioning families, you need a very strong base, which is the couple, right? Husband and wife, wife and wife, whatever you want to call it. And then that positivity spreads out, right? Because kids feel the energy, right? You could fake it, but tension is tension. You can cut that shit with a knife. You walk in, oh shit, mommy, daddy not getting along. Like, you get it. So, and that creates its own anxiety for children. It just resonates throughout the family, right? But people don't understand that. Sometimes people, like, I'll talk to friends, be like, oh, I'm with her because, the kids are young. I was like, bro, you're probably doing more damage being there. Drinking and coming crazy at 4 in the morning. Like, they're going to remember that shit. You know what I'm saying? And one day it's going to come up and you're going to be mad and you're not going to remember it. And then you're really going to get mad. And then, I start illustrating that, like, fuck you, Omar. I'm like, I'm just being honest, man. You asked me a question. The previous guest, he said it right. He goes, you want my advice? Or you just want me to listen? And that's something I tell people, like, you want to answer? Or I'm just hearing you.
But asking that question is so important. And I learned that this year because as I was learning shit, I wanted to dump on people.
Right, just give out information.
Yeah, I came back from doing plant medicine. Yo, you need to try mushrooms. You know what I mean? I was giving people shit they didn't ask for.
You're the prophet.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, telling people shit that, yo, you
they weren't ready for.
Yeah. And you have to respect that.
Yeah.
And be like, yo, I heard you. Do you want my opinion?
Yeah.
Do you want my advice? My line is, can I give you feedback? I always ask that.
Okay.
Because I have some friends now that they've gotten used to me saying that. They're like, nah, not right now. I'm just venting.
That's real, though. That's real. Yeah, that's real.
I'm cool with that. Go ahead. Let it go. But when you want the feedback, I'm going to give it.
I'm going to save it. I'm going to put it right here. Yeah.
And I want that in return.
Right.
Which is something I learned, too. Where I reach out to people and I'll say, yo, I'm going through X. Let me tell you about it, and then give me your perspective.
What you think? Yeah.
Because you need some other people to ground you sometimes, you know what I mean, and bring you back down to reality. Like, maybe it wasn't that serious, or maybe that's not how to look at it.
Yeah, maybe that reaction of anger wasn't the best road traveled. But I think, if we're going to dig it a little deeper, obviously relationships are important. I think that being a brown man in this world and doing positive things and achieving certain milestones, I think it thins out the herd more and more and more. And I think it should be more of, again, collaboration. Yo, man, I think the first time I spoke to you, how can I help? Like, how can we help each other? Because that's really, at the end of the day, I think how we all grow, by helping each other. And I think hopefully people are hearing us on the podcast and be like, yo, man, maybe they think about it a little more. Do it that way, a little more, instead of, oh, let me sell you this, or let me sell you that. Like, yo, bro, I'm not buying today. You know what I'm saying? But let me give you some game. Convert it into whatever digestible form you need. Digest it, maybe implement it for yourself. But going from being a husband, a father, a CEO, a team leader, whatever, like, as you start adding those responsibilities onto the avatar of a man, let's just say that, right? There's gonna be less and less people you can talk to.
Yeah.
And at the end, I said this in another podcast, and I'll say it again. Being an entrepreneur for me has been a very lonely road. Yeah. Only because I'm learning my lessons as I go. I'm taking my bumps. And it's not like anybody else is like, who else do you ask? Yo, put your money or risk it all. Mm-hmm. What do you think? They be like, nah, fuck that. Don't do that. And I'm like, but I did it already. I'm too far in. I can't turn around. And having those conversations. And that's why some of the younger guy, like the guy I did the collabo shirt with, he's younger than me. And I try to kick him in the game that I can. I'll be like, yo, this is what I would do. This is the way I see it. Use it for yourself how you want to. But that's just my opinion. And I don't think there's enough of that. Mm-hmm. I really don't think enough of that from the people all the way to the top to the bottom. I don't think there's enough of that. And hopefully with this show, with people like you and me talking and other guests, I mean, it becomes more of a fact or more of a place where people can reach out and just ask a question, because so many of us have questions and especially me growing up, I didn't have anybody look like me that could ask this question. Like, how do I start a business?
Yeah.
I make this joke all the time. Everybody has an LLC now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it became so common how to do it. You go on Zoom, legal, whatever. But when I first started my first business in '99, like, it was a big deal. I paid an attorney $500 to get me an incorporation. It cost me $150. You know, whatever. Like, because we didn't have access, and now the access is all there, right here, but they don't have understanding.
Yeah.
Right? They don't know what to do with that. Oh, I have all this information. Oh, what are you gonna do with that? Oh, I don't know.
Because it's information overload.
Absolutely.
Information overload, which was why I know you had asked me before I fucked everything up with the bathroom break. So you had asked, what's next, and one of the things that I've been working on for about 7 months now with my partner behind the scenes is we've been working on a curriculum for entrepreneurs.
Nice.
And I don't want to call it coaching because it's not coaching. It's like, do you have a dream? Do you have a vision? All right, cool. Here's some steps to execute.
It's like a blueprint.
Yeah, because that was one of the things, I always try to share my experiences because I feel like everybody wants to show you what to do to win. And I feel like myself personally, my value to the world, the community, whoever, is in showing you how I won by making X mistakes.
Right.
Let me show you all these things where I fucked up and went wrong so that you don't make those same mistakes, and that can help you. So for us, what we wanted to do was, create something where, it's very raw and upfront. Like, hey, you want to become an entrepreneur?
Get ready.
This is what it looks like.
Right.
Solopreneur, like your boy was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You're wearing 20 different hats.
Right.
In
the beginning, you have to be comfortable with it.
Yeah. Because it's like,
because you can't afford it.
You just want to bake cakes. I get it, and you're a great baker.
Right.
But you got to learn marketing. You got to learn.
People have to know about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got to learn finance. So those are the kind of things that we wanted to do to make it so, break it down so much and make it so digestible that it doesn't feel like you're drinking from a fire hose, because that's what's happening right now.
Right.
You grab your phone and it's like, oh, I got to get an LLC. I got to go here and I got to do. Then I
had a conversation with somebody. She's like, I got my LLC. I was like, great. What are you doing? She goes, I don't know. I was like, why'd you get it? She said, I don't know. I said, and this is the issue. Yeah. This is the issue. Yeah. I was like, do you have a business? No, I'm a W-2 employee. I was like, all right, so what are you trying to do? Like, so then I started breaking down to expenses, and I said, look, if you want to be a realtor, all right, well, you can write off your car. Like, I was giving her ideas. But you should have done that at the end. I said, you got to get the plan in the beginning and then you execute it. But it was a great example of information without understanding, right? And the bigger thing I'll say is that people have to understand that certain people aren't qualified to talk about certain things. And if you listen to them, you just listen to a blind person. Like, the blind leading the blind at this point, and you have to vet who you're listening to, right? Who you're taking advice from. Yeah. Are they doing what you're doing? Can you verify it? I'm not saying ask for the social security number, but are there things that they're doing that lead you to believe that they're successful in this platform or this industry? Because too many people, they'll come up with a suit and and they start talking game, and then you'll pay me $500 a month and I'll coach you. Yeah. Coach you to what?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. What'd you do? Do you own a house? Yeah. No, I don't own a house. How you gonna tell me how to own a house? Yeah. I almost had a heart attack. I saw this guy on Instagram. He's like an influencer. He was like, this is why your spouse should be a real estate agent. And then he started talking about, he's the Asian kid. He got like blonde hair, highlights. You know who it is, Darren. And he's like, I'll make my wife this because you could do depreciation. You could do. I'm like, yo, you could do that shit even if you're not a real estate agent. What the fuck are you talking about? But that was a point in the matrix where I'm like, wow, there's a lot of shit going on here. Yeah. There's a lot of shit going on here. But anyway, John, you have real estate, you have coaching, and you have, what's the last one?
It's all one and the same, man. Cause I don't even like to call it coaching, man. Because I have such a disdain for coaching. I've been in so many coaching programs
because of experience. Yeah, because of experience.
Because I would much rather like sit down and consult with you. Like, I have people that I work with now, and it's like, hey, let's do an assessment of your business, right? Let's look at the whole picture. What do your sales look like? What are your lead conversions, so on and so forth. And I want to give you an actionable plan to go execute for 3 months, 6 months, whatever, as opposed to this coaching program that, is designed to keep you in it forever.
Okay.
And I don't want to take your money month after month, and you're still doing the same shit.
Right.
You haven't grown, you haven't executed, you haven't implemented. So I'd rather, what we're trying to do is, hey, this is what I feel you need, and not claiming to be the guru of any of them.
Right.
Saying, hey, this is what I think you need. This is my tax guy because you got a tax problem. This is my marketing guy. He's great at marketing. Go see him. This, whatever it may be.
Right.
And give you a plan. Go and execute. And only because of my shortcomings, my experiences that didn't work, to say, I know this works because I did this one that didn't
fucked
work.
up. Yeah, that fucked up. We don't do that one because I did that one. That shit didn't work. Yeah, I agree. I understand that. All right, where could they find you? Look in the camera and tell them where they can hit you.
You can find me on Instagram. That's my most active account. johnj.rios. And
he just went on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah, but don't message me there because I ain't never there. But you could definitely find me on Instagram. Send me a DM, questions, comments, whatever. I'm here.
John, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
You, brother.